Hey guys, it's the WalterFootball.com After Dark show for April 24th, 2024. We're going to be talking NFL draft because it's kind of coming up in 48 hours. Really looking forward to it. We got a lot to discuss. We're going to be talking all our favorite draft props. I'm going to have it up on the screen. I'm going to discuss it with our two guests here. Before I introduce them, I'm going to say please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. All that would mean a lot to us. Also, if you really want to help support the show, consider super chats and super stickers. We got some great ones last week. Kevin Kovac hit us up with $30 worth. It was amazing. Slew, John Sanders, Degeneron, all these guys were super helpful last week. So if you guys want to help us out and keep the show going, it's a great way to do it. Also, another way to help support the show is to buy my newest book, Jerks of the College Years. It's available on Amazon. If you like Jerks of the Week, I think you'll like this book. It's all about my stories from college. I spent 6 years at Penn State. So as you can imagine, I had a lot of stuff to say in this book about some crazy people I met at Penn State. So Jerks of the College Years, you can find on Amazon. So without further ado, let's introduce our guests. We have Jacob Camenker from the Sporting News. Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be breaking this down with you guys and see how much info and how much accuracy we can get out of this year's draft. It's been a wild pre-draft process so far, but I feel like things are starting to clear up. And I still got a few picks that I'm got my hands tied on. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys are thinking about this.
Yeah, you and me both. Mock draft's always tough, and there's always like a certain number of teams. You're like, oh man, what do we do with this? But yeah, hopefully we'll figure it out. Our special guest today, the senior NFL draft analyst at WalterFootball.com, the most accurate mock drafter over the past decade, the most accurate draft reporter over the past decade, Charlie Campbell. How are you, Charlie?
Great. Thank you very much. Great to be back with you guys, and really exciting time. So I'm anticipating another crazy draft. I think it's going to be challenging for us, unpredictable, but it should be really entertaining. So we'll have some fun with it.
Yeah, gonna have a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun tonight. So we have a $3.33 super chat here from Slew. Thank you so much, Slew. You're amazing. You always give us great support here. And he says, three of you, yes, this is wonderful, wonderful. This is from my Jerks of the Week on Monday when I met this woman who just kept saying, this is wonderful to me. Like when I was just talking to her, she somehow knew all my relatives and she knew my middle name. I was just so weirded out by it. But that was one of the stories that didn't make it into my book. But we also have $20 from Degeneron. Thank you, and great to see Charlie on stream. Yeah, thank you so much, Degeneron. You're great as well. You give us so much support, so thank you so much. And yeah, I'm excited to talk draft props to Charlie because we killed it last year. Charlie, I think every draft prop we posted on the site. Well, first of all, it came from Charlie. Second, we got all but one correct. The only one we missed was Jalen Carter going to the Seahawks. Every single other draft prop we hit. So I'm excited to hear from Charlie and Jacob and discuss our favorite draft props. And if you guys have any questions, just post them and then we'll get to it. The super chats obviously will come first. But yeah, if you guys have any, if you guys like any props, if you want to ask any of us three what we think about it, just let us know. So all right, let's get started here. We're going to go through a few sports books. I'm going to share my screen here first, and then we're going to go to Jacob because Jacob lives in a state where you can actually bet on draft props, like on FanDuel and DraftKings, unlike Charlie and I. But a bookmaker Bet US are two sports books we're going to use on here. You can try Bovada as well. They may not pay you out, but if you make small bets, they might. But we're gonna start a bookmaker. I don't know like how you guys want to do this, but they have a bunch of guys here. Adonai Mitchell, you guys can see this on the screen. Adonai Mitchell over under 27.5, Amarius Mims 22.5, and so on and so forth. You have Bo Nix, Brian Thomas Jr., Brock Bowers, Byron Murphy. You have a bunch of players here. I could continue to read all of them, but like, so Jacob and Charlie, do you have like any over under players that you're considering that like stick out to you?
So Jacob, you want to go ahead?
I just have one quandary that I've had is both Bo Nix and Michael Penix. They have over unders of, I think, 32.5. I know Bo Nix was up there at 32.5. And the juice on Bo Nix, or the VIG, is minus 175 for the over 32.5. And I find that interesting because I don't know. I've seen him mocked to the Broncos so often, and I don't think that the Broncos are going to have the firepower needed to trade up for JJ McCarthy. So unless they like secretly prefer Michael Penix, which would go against kind of the draft intel and reporting that we've seen out there so far, I don't know what to make of that, because if you look at Penix, he has the over under 32.5 as well, but the VIG on his side is way with the under there. So that tells me that the books think that Michael Penix is going to go before Bo Nix, but I don't know how. I'm just in my head. I'm like, how is that going to happen unless the Broncos are sold on Michael Penix and not Bo Nix, and that whole thing has been a smokescreen. So those are the two that I found interesting. I don't know that I want to bet on that, though, because I think the quarterbacks could slip a bit further than we think if they don't go. Bo Nix, if he doesn't go to the Broncos, could fall into that second round range. But those two are ones that stuck out to me. But Charlie, I'm interested to hear your thoughts and if you have any ones that you like here.
Well, first of all, what was that Graham Barton one there? That
is over under 20.5. The over is plus 127. The under is minus 160.
Yeah, I kind of like the over bet on that one. I could definitely see him going in the 20s at the earliest. I don't think he's going to go in the teens. So I think I'm reading that correctly. Then the other one that I'm kind of keeping my eye on, and I would suggest checking back with on Walter Football on Thursday morning, would be the Kool-Aid McKinstry one. So that one jumped out to me because, let's see,
it's over 28.5 minus 127, under 28.5 minus 103.
Yeah, I might do the under on that one. So take a look at where we have him in our mocks come Thursday morning, and that might be one to make a play on as well. That one definitely stood out to me as a guy that we might get some intel on that could go for that under to help us out here.
Yeah, even without the intel, it seems like that's a high number. I think he's definitely going to go in the top 28. So I like that as well. I'm going to read off some that stood out to me, and maybe you guys can chime in to see what you guys think of these picks. So Adonai Mitchell over 27.5. He's the VIG is minus 176. So it's not that appealing as it would be. So maybe you can shop around. There might be better VIG out there, but Adonai Mitchell has been kind of hit with some off the field stuff. There might be some teams that kind of soured on him. So I think that there's a decent chance that he falls to the second round. What do you guys think about this pick?
I think I like the over there as well, because the team that I look at in the first round that I'm thinking, Adonai Mitchell might be kind of the best player available at a position of need for them is the Bills, and the Bills are picking 28th. So unless they're trading up to get him, which I don't know that there would be a reason to do that, I think the over there seems like the right side to me. And like you said, he's not guaranteed to be a first round pick. So if he has character concerns, I would definitely be on board with him sliding to the second round. But what do you think about that one, Charlie?
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. I think there's a serious chance he slides to the second round. And we reported today how the Bills are looking at trading up in the first round, and the targets would be more of Brian Thomas Jr. And Xavier Worthy. And Mitchell, it's multiple issues that combine there in terms of not just kind of his behavior and some off the field stuff at Georgia and Texas, but then also he's a type 1 diabetic, and he hasn't shown very good management of that, which can impact, how he does availability, practice games, and everything else. And I mean, he's played in games that hasn't knocked him out, but it is something that constant monitoring is needed. So wouldn't surprise me at all if that kind of all combines and he slips to day 2.
All right, next one I wanted to get to. This is another ugly vig, but I think it has a good chance of hitting. Brock Bowers under 12.5 minus 174. Now, the obvious home for this is the Jets at number 10. They have no tight end. They need weapons for Aaron Rodgers. Charlie, you reported that it's likely to be either Brock Bowers or Rome Odunze at number 10 because they signed Tyron Smith, so tackle's no longer a big need. And I think Odunze has a good chance of being off the board at 10. So I think that Bowers is very likely to go number 10. So looking at this under 12.5, it seems pretty inviting to me. I'm thinking about betting it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, the one thing I caution, and I just mentioned this because this has happened in the past, but there have been times in drafts where we've been like, oh, this guy's a tight end. He's a full, complete prospect, going to probably go top 10. I'm thinking mostly about OJ Howard. I know that's a terrible comparison for Brock Bowers because Bowers is much better, but it's more positional value thing. So if a team in the top 10, say the Titans makes an unexpected pick and then Rome Odunze is on the board for the Jets, then the only problem I potentially foresee is, you're banking on either the Vikings having traded up and the team at 11, say the Cardinals, going with a tight end there, or you're hoping that the Broncos pass on a quarterback for a tight end. So those are the only ways I can see this not working out. But I tend to agree with you. I think that Bowers is probably going to go to the Jets. I'd be surprised if he falls out of the top 10. So where you're getting a couple spots of cushion, I definitely like it. I don't think it's completely risk-free, as no bets are, but I think this one's a solid one. I would definitely consider it.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it's a solid one and has a little bit of risk there. But I do think that it really comes down to Bowers and Odunze for the Jets because it doesn't really make much sense to draft offensive lineman that's just going to be a backup. They're in a win now mode. The coach, the GM all need to save their jobs. So using the 10th overall pick on a guy who's going to ride the pine if everything goes well doesn't make a lot of sense. And I do think if they say they're both available at 10, I mean, I don't know this yet. I'm hoping to find out more tomorrow. But I think I could see that the lean would be towards Bowers because of, as Walt said, they don't really have a receiving threat at tight end. They signed Mike Williams. They signed they have Garrett Wilson and signed Mike Williams. So a third receiver, it's going to be harder for them to work the ball to him as much as a tight end who can be on the field every down as well. So, I think Bowers has the lean there.
Okay. So Pollyanna is saying, and we'll get to the comments shortly. Prioritize super chats, but Pollyanna says Brock Bowers top 10 is plus money. So please let us know where that is, so I can bet it instead of this ugly minus 174. Degeneron with the $2. Thank you again, Degeneron. He's asking any thoughts to the DJ trade up to, the Jets to number 8. What do you guys think?
I think it's unlikely because the Jets don't have a second round pick. So the mocks that have the Jets trading up and trading up in the top 10 is not cheap. So, I mean, if you're only going up 2 spots, it's not quite so bad. But there was another one of the mocks from the NFL.com guys that I think had them going up to 5 and going 10 to 5 in the top 10 is going to be pricey. And I just don't see them wanting to part with that third round pick. I think they'd be much more likely to trade back in the first round rather than up because they could still come away with a guy to help them in the first round and then maybe, add another pick on day 2. So I would be really surprised if the Jets traded up.
Yeah, and I just don't know that there's going to be a significant difference in value of the player they get. Obviously, if they loved Rome Odunze over Brock Bowers, say, and or they love one of those 2 prospects and are afraid the Bears are going to take them if on the board at 9, then maybe they would consider doing it as kind of an all-in type move. But I think that they're going to have one of those guys on the board, so I don't think they're going to need to trade up. And like Charlie said, if they're looking to trade, it might be to trade down. Maybe it's even just a couple spots with the Broncos. If the Vikings say, don't trade up for a quarterback. Maybe the Giants trade up for J.J. McCarthy, which I think would still be terrible. but maybe the Broncos would try to trade just in front of the Vikings and say, hey, can you get us just in front of them so we can take McCarthy? But yeah, I don't think that the Jets will trade up really.
Yeah, I don't think so either. This last one here, and I think we could probably find a better number, or at least hopefully, at least maybe like find a top 12, or maybe a top 13 at a favorable price. But Latu under 16.5 minus 233. Again, this is an ugly number, and fortunately, we have a good one with Kool-Aid at minus 103 here. But Latu, he got cleared medically, as Charlie reported. So, Charlie, what do you think about this number? I actually mocked Latu to number 8 to Atlanta. I think he can go 8. I think he can go 9. I think he can go 12. I think he can go 14. There's so many spots in the top 16 that he can go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once the medical came back that most teams cleared him, then that just really shot his stock up. So I definitely would pound the under on that number there with him. Because like you said, you got the Falcons, the Bears, say the Cardinals trade down with the Vikings, they could take him at 11. You have the Broncos as well. If they don't go quarterback, that could go for an edge rusher. So I definitely think that the under is going to happen with Latu.
Okay. Jacob, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm right there lockstep with you. I thought that the medical issues could push him past this number earlier, but with him getting cleared, I mean, he had 23.5 sacks the last couple years at UCLA and at least 10 sacks in each season. Teams are going to look at that production and just say, man, if this guy stays healthy, he's going to be a legit plug-and-play starter. So I would say under for sure.
Degenerate on $2 super chat. Is there any intel that the Bears like Latu? Do we have any info on that? Anyway.
Well, I mean, that's interesting. I know they had him in for a visit, and I know from sources there and talking with them at Senior Bowl, it seemed like edge rush was kind of the preferred route to go at 9, but it wasn't a done deal at all. And at Senior Bowl, you're still real early in the process, and a lot can change then, especially the coaches get involved. But I mean, considering that in free agency they added Keenan Allen, and they already have Cole Kmet. They did not add any legit edge rusher to go across from Montez Sweat. They're in a win now situation for the coach and GM to keep their jobs. So I think the pass rusher at 9 is looking really intriguing. So Latu and Dallas Turner and even Jared Verse, I think it'll kind of be pick your flavor. But I definitely think that those guys are prime candidates to go to the Bears at 9.
I could see them trading down from like 9 to 11 or something, and then maybe getting Latu there. So that's kind of like the risk here. As Pollyanna says, top 10 is plus 150. Like, it sounds good, but I'd rather have like top 12 at even money, but I don't know if that's out there, but well, hopefully we'll find something at some sports book. Let's go to BetUS. Apparently I have to log in again. So as I get to this, so NFL draft, select everything. So there are some there's guys to be selected in the first round. There's like Tyler Guyton's like minus 1,000. So if you guys want to do that, you can go ahead. I'm gonna read off some like close to plus money. So like Jordan Morgan's minus 160, Bo Nix is plus 160, Kingsley Suamataia plus 140, Edrin Cooper 230, Troy Franklin 280, and then so on and so forth. You guys can read this. I'll expand. A couple at least one that stood out to me is Keon Coleman at plus 475. I think like close to 5-1 odds on him is pretty good in the first round. I think there's some there might be some interest from teams at the bottom of the first round for Keon Coleman. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about that one?
Yeah, I like the Keon Coleman one there. I think that's a sneaky first round real possibility. I know some teams picking late in the first that he's in play for, depending on who else is there. I think Braden Fisk might be another one that could be worth considering. I feel like Keon Coleman might be a little bit of a better bet than Braden Fisk, but I do think that he's a guy that could sneak into the end of the first round as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely on board with those guys, especially like you look at Fiske, and anytime we're talking about interior pass rushers in the NFL right now, they are so valuable. So even if there are questions about his size, I think that might be enough to sneak him in there. The 49ers love taking guys like that. So 31 could be a good fit. Coleman, obviously, with the size and the bloodlines. He's CeeDee Lamb's cousin, which I learned today. That's kind of cool. There's one other name on that list that I don't know if he's actually going to go first round, but Zach Frazier, I think, was about plus 325. He's plus 350.
Yeah.
So I think there might be a run on interior linemen. And I know a lot of people say, well, what's the positional value of that? You can find good guys at guard and center on day 2 and sometimes even day 3 of the draft. But with the interior pass rush being kind of elevated at the NFL level now, I think the teams might be more willing to look at that guy. And Frazier checks a lot of boxes. He's like tough. He's very tough. He's got a wrestling background from his high school days. He just seems like a safe bet to be productive. So I could see a team like the Lions taking him. He fits that kneecap biter mold that Dan Campbell loves. So I would consider him at 3.5 to 1 odds.
Okay, something similar, 3 to 1. And this is another thing that Charlie posted on the site today, or actually, I don't know if it was today or if it was tomorrow's article that wasn't posted yet. So kind of have like my wires crossed here. But Malik Neighbors to be the first receiver chosen is 3 to 1, whereas Marvin Harrison Jr. is minus 900. So Charlie, if you wanted to talk about this, you've heard from a lot of teams that have Neighbors over Harrison, and on the show earlier, I think it was like last week or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how the Cardinals, we know for sure that they have Neighbors over Harrison. So do you want to discuss that?
Yeah, I think that's a real possibility. I think part of it is just because of the hype and the name with Harrison. It's kind of been a foregone conclusion that he would be the first one off the board. But I've had multiple team people tell me that they felt Neighbors' tape was better than Harrison. And Neighbors brings an explosive element that Harrison doesn't have. So I definitely think Neighbors has a real shot at being the first wideout off the board. And it's all going to come down to kind of the type of receiver that they want. If you want a guy that's kind of like a Garrett Wilson, Jamar Chase-ish kind of receiver, you're going to be more inclined to go with Neighbors. If you want more of a CeeDee Lamb kind of receiver, then you might be more into Harrison. So it's going to depend on the team, but I do know teams that like Neighbors more.
I've actually already bet this prop on FanDuel. I think I did it a few days ago, so I apologize if I dropped the vig on that at all. Here I am, like my $10 bet would drop the vig, but that's where we're at. But I've seen the same reporting. I've read your reporting about it, Charlie, and it just seems like it's more of a coin toss than people realize. So even if Harrison does go first among the receivers, there's still no value in betting him. So I think taking a flyer on Neighbors and saying, hey, this could happen, I think that's a good play.
What, do you remember what number you got him at?
I want to say it was plus 400. So it wasn't like otherworldly. I just happened to get it a couple days ago, but it is moving down. So it does show that there's probably at least a little money coming in on it.
Yeah, well, I urge everyone to shop around. There are links on the homepage where you can find good deals on sportsbooks. So I highly recommend that, as I always say. Jenanon, another $2. Thank you so much to Jenanon. He asks, anything with Fiske's medicals sounded bad. Have you guys heard anything about Braden Fiske's medicals?
I have not. No, I've spoken to a bunch of teams in the past few days, and none of them mentioned his medical. With him, it's more of the questions I heard were, just the team, if teams are comfortable with the run defense, because he can get knocked around and covered up sometimes in the ground game, the lateral anchor. can be a problem. But he's definitely an interior rusher that can get upfield and put heat on the quarterback, and his motor is just off the charts. So it's to me that there wasn't medical, that no one mentioned that, but it's just more of, okay, well, where do we value him, and where, how comfortable are we that he can get better against the run to be a 3-down starter and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about the medicals either. It was more size concerns like Charlie outlined, but I think that even if you look at him as a rotational pass rusher more than a 3-down player, I think he's still impactful, but that might be enough to keep him on day 2.
Okay. First defensive player chosen. We talked about Latu before. He's now 2-1 here. Again, you might be able to find a better number out there. Dallas Turner's even money. I think this is similar to Neighbors versus Harrison. I think it's kind of a coin flip. I've seen some sportsbooks have Latu as the favorite for Atlanta instead of Turner. So to find 2-1 seems pretty interesting to me on the coin flip. What do you guys think?
I would bet that. That would probably be my favorite bet that we've talked about or I've seen in this draft so far, is Latu being the first defensive player selected. So I think that medical report made all the difference, because he has more size than Dallas Turner and Jared Verse. He has more production than they do, better tape. He's more developed as a pass rusher than Dallas Turner. Dallas Turner's got great speed, but he's needs development in terms of moves and kind of how he's attacking offensive tackles. Latu's much more advanced. So I think the only way I've got to have to choose my words here. I'm confident that he will be the first defensive player drafted. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, that seems to be what the sentiment is around it. Like I said earlier to you, Walt, I think I had Dallas Turner like written in pen, like carved into a tree in stone as like the first defender pick. But it seems like Latu is just precipitously gained, and it's all about the medical for him. The production is there, and he should be a quality pickup at this point at 2-1 odds. I am all there for that.
Slew giving us a heads up here. Caesars has a plus 700 on Neighbors to be first receiver taken. Marvin Harrison Jr. is minus 1,500. Imagine getting 7-1 odds on a coin flip. It's pretty good. So I highly recommend. That's what I'm talking about. Like, shopping around is so important. Okay, so there were some. Okay, we have over-unders here again. We talked about those, and I doubt there's gonna be like something drastically different here, but I wanted to talk about so first overall pick, if Caleb Williams minus 20,000, it's good luck with that. I mean, like to make a dollar, you need to just basically mortgage your house. So good luck. All right, so number 2 overall though, Jaden Daniels is minus 400. So this is a high number, but I'm pretty confident that this is going to hit. Like I think this number honestly should be like minus 1,000 or higher, personally. So I am considering betting this. Am I crazy at minus 400?
I would not say you're crazy. I think that Washington is going to pick Jaden Daniels. It's not just because Brian Kelly said that he was going to be a good fit in Washington with that one slip up he had in a press conference a month or so ago, or maybe around the time of the combine, but it just seems like the sentiment in the building. Yeah, there have been reports that Washington's maybe interested in a few of the quarterbacks. And I know some people will say, well, wasn't Jaden Daniels not happy with this visit? Well, what he thought of the visit won't matter unless he said, I will not play for you, which I don't think that he's doing that. So I think Washington's going with Jaden Daniels. It just seems like that's the direction they're preparing to go in. And I think the movement on this line, where it kind of shortened a little bit towards even earlier in the week, and now it's going back in the other direction, I think that just signals that Daniels is going to be the guy.
I agree. I think I mean, nothing's ever a lock until it happens. And as Jacob said, there's always some risk. But I think that it's extremely, extremely likely, highly, highly likely.
Okay. We have the third overall pick. Not as excited about this one. I think it's going to be Drake May at minus 350, but I like Daniels a lot more at minus 400. You have JJ McCarthy plus 350. I'm not really seeing anything here. Do you guys have any leans here, or maybe you guys like this a lot? I don't know.
I don't want to touch this one because if I bet Drake May and the Patriots don't take Drake May, I'll be double disappointed. And if I bet JJ McCarthy and the Patriots take Drake May, then I'm happy but also disappointed. And then if I bet JJ McCarthy and he is the pick, then I'm happy that I made money but also disappointed. So there's no way for me to win this one unless I bet May and the draft May, and I'm just not willing to take the chance that that's the case. I think it's going to be May, but I don't have a strong conviction about it. Charlie, maybe you'll have a bit stronger of a feeling on this pick.
Yeah, I think it will be May. I don't feel as strongly as I do about Daniels there, but I do think they're going to take May. So, yeah, I would be surprised if it wasn't him.
Okay, number 4, I think is way more interesting, and I think there's a way to make money on this. Maybe not at BetUS, but other sports books will have better numbers. So, yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. minus 225. We know that. I'd be shocked if that's the pick, even though he's a big favorite there, because we know Arizona likes Neighbors more than Harrison Jr., and Arizona wants to trade out, and a team wants to move up. So I think it's likely to be a quarterback, but if it's not a quarterback, I think it's going to be Neighbors. So I think if you bet McCarthy, Neighbors, and May, if you bet all 3 of those, and they're all plus money here, like you're almost guaranteed to make money on BetUS. But there are other sports books where these numbers are higher, like but again, Bovada, like they're not trustworthy. But if you make small bets, you can cash out. McCarthy's plus 400 there, so you can mix and match on different sports books, and you can make money with this scheme. This is something I talked about with Ben Wassley from Fantasy Football First Down on last Wednesday or 2 Wednesdays ago. He's gonna be on the show tomorrow. But I like this scheme here because we're pretty confident that Harrison's not gonna be the pick. So what do you guys think about this?
Yeah, I like that. And I'm looking at the numbers for this on FanDuel. JJ McCarthy's plus 400 there. Drake May is plus 650. Malik Neighbors is plus 2,000. So I think if you're making a handful of similar money bets on that one, like even if you're just doing 10, 10, and 10 on that, odds are you're going to make money unless Arizona has us all fooled and Marvin Harrison is their guy. But I think that's just kind of the narrative around the draft coming into it was that Marvin Harrison was going to be the first receiver taken. I think people are so reluctant to let go of that when the player hasn't really given like a great reason for him to drop. It's less so that Harrison's done anything wrong and more so that Malik Neighbors has just done a lot of things right to kind of close that gap.
Yeah, I think Walt has a great plan there and scheme to come away with a winner, and you cover the losses on the other 2 and you're still in the black. So I think that's really well thought out.
I'm glad to hear FanDuel has better numbers and not just Bovada, because we know FanDuel will pay you out, unlike Bovada. Bovada does not pay people out. They make big bets. So just be careful. Like I said, you can make small bets and cash out, but big bets, they don't like that. Number 5 overall pick. I don't know what to make of this. So like if we were doing a mock draft right now, I'd ask you guys, what do you think this pick is going to be? Because, receiver makes so much sense because Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are both gone. But all the talk is that the Chargers want to go tackle. Even though Joe Walt has never played right tackle before, like they're going to put him at right tackle, even though he's never played there. Or they want to trade down. Of course, the team has to move up. So Malik Neighbors is the favorite at 2-1. Marvin Harrison Jr. plus 250, and then you have JJ McCarthy is 225, Joe Alt 425. I don't know what to make of this. What do you guys think the Chargers are going to do? Because I'm kind of dumbfounded. This is one of the teams that's kind of screwing me over.
Big time. This is one of the real challenging one right now, and I've been trying to get info on it, and it's being very quiet and tight-lipped. So I'm hoping that I'll get some kind of suggestion of which way to go tomorrow night, but we'll see. I'm going to be trying, but yeah, I definitely think this is a crapshoot because all of those guys, all Neighbors and Harrison, I could make an argument for why it would be that guy and why it wouldn't be that guy. So it's really, really challenging. I mean, I'm not sure money line, if you bet all three of them, what, if you might be able to come out in the black there, but yeah, that would be one way to think about it.
Yeah, this pick is too difficult for me to actually probably put any money on it. I mean, I'm looking at the FanDuel odds right now. There are four guys plus 400 or shorter. So, but it just doesn't strike me as any of them being guaranteed to be the pick here. I will say this: if quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know if Jim Harbaugh is going to be able to pass on Marvin Harrison, just having seen him play at Ohio State and getting an up close personal look at him and the team needing a receiver. Like, that just strikes me as they should probably take him if that's the case. But at the same time, if Arizona trades down, I think that they could be interested in trading back up for Malik Neighbors at 5, and the Chargers might look at that opportunity to drop to 11 and say, hey, we know J.C. Latham's probably going to be on the board at 11. Not guaranteed, but probably going to be there. And he might be just as good for us as Joe Alt would be. So why don't we go get him and figure things out later? And hey, if he comes off the board, Talise Fuaga's there. Olu Fashanu is a little rawer, but they have a lot of options that they could go with if they trade down. So I don't want to touch it because of that. But my gut is telling me Marvin Harrison Jr. here, or trade down for a tackle in a rich class.
The fact that no info is leaking out there, except for a couple of rumors here and there saying, oh, the Chargers want to go tackle or the Chargers want to trade down. That kind of makes me think that they're going to go receiver. And I think, Jacob, you're right, because Jim Harbaugh has watched Marvin Harrison Jr. very closely. And if I'm him, I'm like, man, can you imagine how great my team would be if we had him too, So they don't have anything at receiver outside of Joshua Palmer. So I don't know. I think receiver makes so much sense, but like Charlie said, it's kind of tough to get anything out of it. We have a super chat here from Degeneron. Thanks once again, Degeneron, $2. Confidence in JJ McCarthy at number 4. So everyone thinks Vikings are trading up to 4, Broncos to 4. People are saying Giants maybe to 4, Raiders possibly, probably not. What do you guys think is the quarterback they move up for? Any team moves up for is McCarthy at 4. Maybe we get a curveball. We get Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, I mean, I hate being. I don't. This is one of the first years in a long, long time that I've ever projected a trade in a mock draft because they're so difficult to predict, but. I think this one, it definitely is a very real possibility. And talking with teams over the weekend, that kind of swayed me even more to put that in my mock, that they said that the Vikings are trying to get to 4. Arizona is trying to leverage to the last minute to get the biggest offer they possibly can and getting teams to panic, and that they could already have the parameters worked out to know where, okay, if we're going to do a trade, what would it take? And okay, so they kind of know what it is. And then if, they get on the clock and then make the call and say, okay, that's what we're doing and we'll do it. So I think it's most likely. I wouldn't say highly, highly likely, but I would say probably most likely to happen.
I'd be surprised if there wasn't a trade given all the smoke around it. And like you said, Charlie, it seems like the Cardinals are just trying to wait till the last minute. And part of me is, I've tried to logic out the reason for that. I think it boils down to this for me. The Vikings are going to be able to put together the best offer in terms of total draft capital because they have the 2 first-round picks this year and are probably going to be willing to pay a lot just to ensure they can get a quarterback. But in the back of my mind, I'm also like, but do they want? Are the Cardinals trying to get the Giants to make some sort of big-time play so that they can move down to 6 instead and then have a real easier shot at getting Malik Neighbors, who they might like, at 6? Like that's what my thought is. They're probably waiting to see if they can get we leverage the situation so the Giants gave us a deal that's at least comparable and we can get Malik Neighbors. That's just a theory I'm working on, but I'd be surprised if there isn't a trade at this point. And even if it is with the Vikings, don't be surprised if Monty Austin-Fort pulls what I'm starting to call the Monty maneuver, where he trades down and then might trade back up to get one of the guys that he wants.
I like the Monty maneuver. I kind of like that. But it's not a super chat, but I thought this is funny. Vegas asking, could we go through every tab you currently have open instead of a mock? I promise I'll do that during the summer. We'll do that in one episode. And then the Hef saying it's going to cost you $2 for them to answer your question. Not so. No, we will go through questions at the end. It's just like, there's so many and you kind of have to prioritize some. Number 6 overall. Malik Neighbors is the favorite here, but he could be off the board or maybe not. If the Arizona moves down and the Chargers take Harrison, I think Neighbors is a very likely pick. Outside of that, not really seeing anything. I don't think the number is good enough for me to take Neighbors at plus 140, even though I think he's the favorite. What do you guys think?
The one that's kind of sneaky to me there is Marvin Harrison plus 1,000 because it's not. I wouldn't say it's likely, but I do think that there's a possibility of that where if McCarthy ends up going 4 and then at 5 the Chargers take Neighbors or Joe Alt, then Harrison's there at 6 for the Giants and plus 1,000. It's a nice payoff. So yeah, I definitely think that that's kind of a sneaky one to consider at 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the one that stood out to me too, because you're talking 10, 12 to 1 odds like that. If it's basically a coin flip, if you get the 4 quarterbacks first and the Chargers are definitely taking a receiver, yeah, I think they would go Marvin Harrison Jr. probably, but maybe they throw that curveball and the Giants end up in position to get Marvin Harrison, and I would think that they'd want to go with him. I just have a feeling that would be the case, but yeah, that seems like a decent value, but the other ones don't interest me as much.
Yeah, 10 to 1's pretty outstanding. I kind of like that. So we have number 7, Joe Walt's the favorite, minus 180. He could go 5, so that's the danger here. But I feel like if he falls to 7, he's likely to be the pick. There are some high numbers here, so you got to figure if Alt is off the board, what do you like? I think JC Latham, maybe 22 to 1. Not crazy about that, but the number's good. It's just I don't know if he goes there. But Talise Fawaga 8 plus 850 is fine. Anything stand out for you guys here? Number 7 overall.
Yeah. I would think if something leaks out tomorrow or Thursday during the day where suddenly you see all these people mocking Alt to the Chargers at 5, then I might look at Fashanu or Latham putting something on them at 7.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat there. I think Fashanu might be the one that I would target here because I don't know exactly what Rand Carthon's idea behind the draft would be, but I think Fashanu has the highest upside and probably the best potential to play left tackle, and that would allow Nick Petit-Frere to move back to the right side where he was pretty good. So I think you get 2 upgrades in one if you get a left tackle, whereas if you go for the right side, then you're still wondering, hey, is Petit-Frere going to be able to hold up over there? So that would be my thought.
Okay, number 8 overall, we have Dallas Turner plus 160, Latu 250. I think they should flip. Personally, I like the Latu plus 200 to be first defensive player chosen instead of this. So I don't know if you guys think anything's going to happen here. I think there's a chance that this is a trade and some team moves up for Odunze. I think Odunze 5 to 1 is a little intriguing to me. What do you guys think here?
Yeah, I think I would go on Latu on this one. That's what I would definitely bet is Latu at 8. But the risk is the trade. And that definitely is a possibility for, say, Arizona drops down to 11, and then they want to get Odunze in front of Chicago, and they make Atlanta an offer, and they do a deal. Or even the Bears want to move up one spot because they're worried that Arizona is going to do that. So I think you can't rule out the risk factor involved with the trade, but as if Atlanta were to stick and pick, I think that I would go on the Latu money line here.
Sorry, real quick, Charlie. What about Latu and Adunze? You could bet both and make money.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely do that if you want to kind of cover your bases. You could bet that. But yeah, and I mean for Atlanta, there is risk though in dropping down, because if you drop down with a team like the Jets or the Cardinals and you want Latu, the Bears could take them at 9. So there's danger in that for Atlanta. So that kind of argues against the trade risk.
Okay.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm thinking too here, I think that the better bet, as Charlie mentioned, is just going Latu as the first defensive player taken, because I'm like mildly afraid of the trade down, but I'm looking at Byron Murphy the second here, and there was some reporting. I think ESPN's Adam Schefter was behind this, but he said that there was a possibility Byron Murphy could end up being the first defensive player taken. So if you subscribe to that and you're looking at these 10-1 odds here, I would maybe consider betting that and Latu here and trying to make some money. I mean, in that case, if Rome Odunze ends up being the pick of the trade up, you're in trouble. But I think that Byron Murphy is going to go a little earlier than people think, just based off what I've been seeing.
Okay. There is no number 9 prop here. I mean, I'm sure other sites have him. Brock Bowers is the favorite to go number 10. We talked about this, so I don't know if we need to rehash this. Bowers at plus 135. I'd rather just take the under 12 and a half. I forget what it was. Actually, this is a better number, plus 135. So, I mean, I don't know what you guys think about this. Would you rather take Bowers at number 10 overall, plus 135, or the under 12 and a half? I think it was like minus 175 or something, or maybe it was minus 200. I forget what it was, or no, I forget what it was exactly. But what do you guys think?
I say, why not both? You kind of hedge your bet. So if the Jets either trade up or someone else nabs Bowers, you're covered with having the other bet. And if you hit both, you hit both. So I think that's a good option here. Rome Odunze at 7-1 seems like a nice value here, because if he slips to this point, I think that the Jets would consider him, like Charlie mentioned. So I think if you bet those two, that wouldn't be bad necessarily. You're just hoping that both of them aren't off the board.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So players to be drafted by. We're not going to go there. There are a lot of players here, so I'm not going to go through all of them. But I'll read off like groups of 10, and like maybe you guys will think of one you guys might like. Or if not, just say we can move on. But Blake Corum, it's a tough one because he's like a day 2 player. So Blake Corum, Bo Nix. So I mean, he's a heavy favorite here to go to Denver. Brock Bowers, talk about him. Caleb Williams, it's again minus 20,000. You have JJ McCarthy at plus 120 to go to the Vikings, and then 3-1 to the Giants, 2-1 to the Patriots, and so on. You have Jaden Daniels minus 400. It's the same number that we had for him to go number 2 at the other sportsbook. Or no, it's the same sportsbook. Michael Penix Jr. He's plus 250 to the Raiders. It's kind of interesting. I think it's not an amazing number, but I think he probably. I'd say the Raiders are probably the favorite to take him. And then actually, this is the last name, so it's Xavier Worthy. He has plus 550 to go to the Bills and the Chiefs. Then 750 to the Dolphins, and then you have plus 1,000 or higher. Do any names stand out to you guys at all here?
Go ahead, Jake. I'm not seeing any in particular.
Yeah, the one that stands out to me is Michael Penix, as you mentioned. I think the Raiders are a good bet. And here's my thought process on this. I think that if you bet the Raiders and the Broncos at plus 700, I think that's the number next, or plus 550. Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think if you bet those two, you have a pretty good chance of getting Michael Penix where he's going to land. Because if we think Minnesota is going to trade up for JJ McCarthy, you just look at the logical landing spots for Michael Penix Jr., who seems to be trending towards being a first-round pick. As I mentioned earlier, I think maybe the Broncos are running some smoke screen and they actually want Penix, and they've gotten everyone to think that it's Nix, or someone misheard someone say Penix and was like, oh, they want Nix. That would be an all-time story, but that's probably not the case. But I think one of those two teams probably ends up with Penix. And if Penix ends up on the Giants, oh, goodness, I will hate that so much.
Yeah, Penix to the Raiders, I like. I like that scheme, like the Raiders or Broncos. We might be able to get some info on that to get some clarity as we get closer to the draft. So that's something that that we could post on the site. There will be a page for this, by the way, on Wednesday morning, and I'll add stuff as we hear info. Charlie, what do you think about the Raiders taking Michael Penix?
Yeah, I think they're the most likely candidate. It's just, I can't think of another team that there's real buzz about taking him there. So I feel that's a good bet. But at the same time, when you get away from the top of the first round, it gets a lot harder, and there's a lot more unpredictability with these prospects. So it just gets to be a lot more challenging to be really confident that that's this team's going to take that quarterback. So I would, if I was going to bet, I would do the Penix Raiders one, and then maybe hedge it with the Broncos. But from what I've heard, the Broncos aren't high on Penix. So but that is a nice insurance policy, because those are really the only two teams. If Minnesota, goes up and gets JJ McCarthy, there's really only two teams left that could take Penix, and that's the Raiders and Broncos.
So you heard that there's not much buzz with the Broncos with Penix. What have you heard with the Broncos, if anything?
Well, I mean, I've heard that their, potential is there for them to trade up for McCarthy as far as the trade up target, but at the same time, I'm not sure they're going to be willing to pay the price to go up and get him. I think, because going from 12 to 4 is going to be extremely expensive. So I think, considering they just gave up 2 first-round picks for Russell Wilson, and then another one for Sean Payton, I'm just not sure that they have the feeling to give up future first-round picks. So they're looking at a 5 or 6 year span or something with only 1 first-round pick coming on the roster. I mean, the Rams did it, but that's the exception and not the norm in the NFL.
Yeah, they don't have a second-round pick. It's gonna be pretty tough. So we have some other ones down here, like position of teams drafting players. But I actually wanted to jump to another sports book. Jacob has either FanDuel or DraftKings. You could pick Jacob. I don't have a preference personally. Whatever you bet the most at, we could just go with. So if you wanted to share your screen, we could do that, and then we can answer some questions to close out the show.
Yeah. So I am. Hold on. Yeah, I'm sharing my DraftKings tab to StreamYard now. Can you see it?
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in the chat, let us know if you can't see it, but I can see it. So. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is the draft matchup section over at DraftKings. We've gone over a lot of the other stuff that we normally would do, but this segment I find pretty interesting. We have a lot of just head-to-head guys here, so I thought some of these piqued my interest. Here we have Adonai Mitchell versus Xavier Worthy. Based off what you were both saying about Adonai Mitchell having potential character concerns, I'm almost at plus 130. Xavier Worthy seems like a solid bet to me there. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Charlie. Well, I'll say this. Sorry. No, I like Worthy. We talked about how Mitchell has the off the field stuff. I think it's a chance that Worthy sneaks into the first round, whereas like Mitchell seems more likely to go second round. What do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, I think I would go with Worthy on that one. And I definitely, on that, looking at that page right there, I would also bet that Latu one going ahead of Byron Murphy. I'd hit
that value was one of the ones that stood out to me, because you're talking plus 130, and he might be the first defensive player off the board. But even if he's not, I think there are a few good landing spots for him ahead of Byron Murphy. I think the Falcons or Bears could go Latu. I mean, Murphy could be in the running for those picks as well, but I think he's more likely to go to a team like the Seahawks at 16 or the Saints at 14. So I think you're covering all your bases there. That line almost seems old to me.
Yeah, it really does. I was kind of surprised that Penix is minus 400 compared to Knicks at plus 300. I mean, I've Knicks going ahead of Penix in my mock draft, but it's just like I feel like Denver could maybe they're smart and they'll trade down and get Knicks. I can see that happening, but I from what I read from people I trust, they said that like they're interested in trading up for a quarterback and maybe Knicks. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's what has thrown me off because I've been thinking that Knicks was more likely to go ahead of Penix, but the odds makers seem to think that isn't the case, unless they're trying to bet people into getting a terrible number on Michael Penix, but I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. Jenna asking $2. How close are the safeties? First safety to be chosen. Let me see here. I don't know if there's an option at this sportsbook to draft the first safety. Let's see here.
I don't think there is.
Yeah, if you want to reference this sportsbook where you can bet on which safety goes first, and let us know because I'm looking at this one right here and there's not. Charlie, do you have any idea which safety it might be chosen first?
Man, that is a real tough one because of the safety draft being so thin and weak. It's really going to come down to team and preference and scheme. So, man, if I had to bet, I mean, they don't. Obviously, they're not listing Cooper DeJean. I'm guessing as a safety because that would be that'd be an obvious money maker if they were.
There we go. Yeah, DeJean's not listed there.
Yeah, he's not listed there. So I would lean towards Newbin, but I think that Cam Kinchins and Cole Bishop would be worth considering as well. So I think those three could all be candidates.
Okay.
Yeah, Kinchins and Bishop at 15 and 16 to 1 respectively seems like decent value. I've seen them in second rounds of mock draft, so I could see that, just whatever they think happens.
Yeah, seems like a total crapshoot at this point with those guys. But yeah, if you're going to bet something like that, definitely bet something in the teens.
We can bet the Chargers to draft both J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum.
No, very nice. 40 to 1. I mean, why would they draft McCarthy? Why would the Chargers draft McCarthy?
I don't know. It'd have to be part of like some elaborate ruse that they're trying to get rid of Justin Herbert this whole time. All right. Gendanon is asking about the running backs too. Looking at this one, Jonathan Brooks is the favorite. I've seen a lot of Trey Benson buzz in recent weeks, and I know Blake Corum, I think, is the top running back among the prospects that are listed on your site. So them at 3 to 1 and 4 to 1 respectively seems like a solid pairing that could probably make you money.
Yeah, I like that Blake Corum first running back drafted number there. So I definitely think there's a chance that you win on that one.
Yeah, I'm thinking either Corum or Benson because Brooks has the torn ACL, so
right.
I think that if he didn't have the torn ACL, I feel like he would certainly be the first one chosen. But he's going to have issues playing this year, and if he does, there's a good chance he re-injures something. As we see running backs come back early, they usually like tear their Achilles, like trying to compensate for that injury. So. I think that Brooks could still be the first running back chosen, but I think Benson and Corum are good bargains there.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet a minus number in a weak class, unless it was clear cut like Jonathan Brooks is head and shoulders above these guys and fully healthy. But we don't quite have that happen right now.
Okay. Do you want to move on to something else?
I think we've covered all the. Oh, you have second tight end selected. That's exciting. Spoiler alert: one of these second tight ends went in the end of my AI mock draft, which I had fun writing the last few days. It was a terrible pick. But
was that
okay.
published yet? Was that published yet?
No, that's going to publish tomorrow. Otherwise, I would have told you guys what the pick is, but it was hilarious. It was funny, too, because like the first 3 quarters of it, you're like, oh, this could actually happen. Like, this is actually not half bad as a mock. And then pick 25 on, it started to lose its thread a little bit.
Yeah, it's AI is pretty funny. I asked AI to design a book cover for my Jerks of the College Years book, and it misspelled college. So, yeah, it was pretty funny. So AI is cool, but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, we're getting some more questions about. There's one from JP. How do we feel about Kool-Aid to be the first, second, or third corner taken? It's good odds on all 3 right now. Yeah, it's plus 400 on the third cornerback. Plus 600 on the second cornerback, and 50 to 1 on the first cornerback. I don't think he'll be the first cornerback. I think that's probably going to be Terry and Arnold, unless Quinion Mitchell goes to the Raiders. But I think that I would consider betting him at second or third. Those both seem like solid values. I don't know what you guys think there.
Can you go back up to first?
Yeah, sure. Quinion Mitchell is minus 135. Terry and Arnold is plus 110.
Charlie, I'm kind of curious if you have anything on Kool-Aid at 50 to 1 there.
Yeah, I don't think I would bet him as the first one. I think Arnold will likely be the first cornerback taken. And then second cornerback and third cornerback, I would, like we hit on before, maybe take a look at our mocks on Thursday morning and see, because I'm hoping to get some info from a team or a couple teams that Kool-Aid might be their kind of who they're zeroing in on. So we'll see. Take a look at that on Thursday.
I'd like to give a shout out.
If we have them in the top 20, then that'll be significant.
Okay. I'd like to give a shout out to Cooper DeJean. He's plus 550 to be the first cornerback taken. No, I think that Arnold probably should be the favorite, but DeJean, I think that Seattle would have interest in him. Seattle brought him in for a top 30 visit, and I was looking at like Seattle's top 30 visits to kind of figure out who they're going to take because they value those. And DeJean was like the only player there who really made a lot of sense, and he fills a huge need for them. I know they took Devon Witherspoon last year, but DeJean is a much different type of defensive back. So, what are your thoughts on DeJean at plus 550?
I wouldn't mind that if the Seahawks are definitely interested. I think that could be a good fit. I still have a feeling that either the Raiders or the Colts is going to go with the cornerback before then. The Colts and Terry and Arnold just feels like there's a lot of smoke around that. Maybe someone will fall. Maybe they'll go with a receiver like Brian Thomas. But I don't hate DeJean at that number. There's definitely nothing crazy about that.
Yeah, I mean, he's got such good tape. And there's a lot of team guys that really love him. He's a bit polarizing because some, view him as a nickel in a safe nickel safety. And because of that, some feel like positional value. You don't take that high in the first round or sometimes not even in the first round at all. But definitely there's a lot of scouts and evaluators that love him, and he's a great kid and he worked out really well. So it wouldn't shock me if he's, if he ends up going a little higher than expected.
Question from Degeneron, $2. Thank you so much again. Darius Robinson over under 28. Odd invite to the green room. I would say under. We have that pick on the site right now. So I would say under, and I will bet that.
Yeah, I would say under 2 there. Just it seems like NFL teams are pretty high on him, especially among those picking late in the first.
Yeah. So yeah, we're rewatching Game of Thrones with Tom on Saturday, and in the spirit of Varys, a little birdie told me that Darius Robinson under 28. Okay. And we can move on to something else here. So we have first defensive player chosen here, Latu, plus 225, which is better than the plus 200 that we saw earlier.
Yeah, this number has moved a lot today too, because these were both 170 at one point when I looked. Because I've been keeping an eye on it because I keep thinking like, is Dallas Turner going to be it or is it Latu? But yeah, plus 225 seems like a good value here. I can go to some other tabs here too. I'm trying to figure out how to work this thing. Draft team specials we're getting a request from. Okay. The Bills are minus 280 to take a receiver, so do we think that that's the position they're going at? We're getting questioned in the chat about that.
Yeah, Charlie posted something about this. So you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was told they're looking to move up for a receiver, and Brian Thomas and Xavier Worthy were kind of the top candidates, and Thomas, even of the two, is probably the direction they're going. So yeah, I think that's not necessarily good odds, but I do think that's got a real shot of coming through, that the Bills take a receiver in the first round.
Yeah, I always feel like you never get great odds on these position to team fit because a lot of it depends on what we don't know. But this Bills one, obviously the odds aren't great, but we're pretty sure they're going to take a receiver. It'd be surprising if they went in a different direction, really.
Yeah, sometimes you can find a good deal. Like last year, so this is one of mine that didn't win. I was like, I was looking at all the Browns top 30 visits, and they visited with where they hosted more offensive linemen than any other position. And so I saw like their first pick, which is in the second round, was like 9-1 to take offensive linemen. So I took a shot there, and actually they spent their second pick on an offensive lineman. So it was close. So I think you can find some good deals here. But yeah, I mean, minus 280 is not great, but it sounds like that is going to win. But yeah, I mean, Jets position first drafted is it's plus 180 to draft the tight end. That is much better than the number that we had for Brock Bowers to go number 10. So, but plus here you don't have to worry about a trade or anything like that. Like they move down 2 spots and take Bowers, you're still good there.
Yeah,
so I like this a lot.
This is equal to the odds of them taking Brock Bowers at 10 with the number 10 overall pick on this website. So if you're going to bet this, bet just the Jets to take a tight end. If you're that confident in Brock Bowers, because then you're protected from the trade, like you said.
Yeah, that's pretty outstanding. Are there any other ones, or do you guys want to go to some questions here?
I think we can probably go to the questions at this point.
I think so.
Okay. All right, so let's say Tony's saying anyone else in Latu at number 9 at 15-1. Now we're talking about Latu at 8. Do you guys like if there's Latu at number 9? And if you guys have any questions like this, please specify the sportsbook. But Latu at 9 at 15-1. Any interest there? Maybe Atlanta moves down 1 spot.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. I could see. If you're thinking a trade happens, then yeah. If you feel confident that Atlanta moves down 1 spot, or you feel confident that the team's going to move up with Atlanta to get like Odunze or someone like that, then it could be worth a shot. But yeah, you're banking on a trade happening at 8.
Yeah, I suppose I would consider it, but I do think that if Atlanta's definitely going to take Latu, it seems like that's the direction things are trending in, I probably wouldn't want to bet that because they'd have to move down 1 pick, which is possible. But I'm also looking at these number 9 pick odds. Rome Odunze is the favorite, but Byron Murphy is close behind. I find that interesting. It makes sense. The Bears want to add to their pass rush, but maybe they do it on the interior because they already have Montez Sweat. So the buzz around Byron Murphy seems to be good. So I would bet his under draft position probably, depending on what it's at. But I think I saw it at 16.5 earlier. So that seems like a good value now.
Yeah, I heard Minnesota likes him a lot, but Minnesota needs a quarterback. So it doesn't sound like they're going to take him. But question from Mike: chances of Ayuk getting traded this week? I think he could be one of those receivers traded during the draft, like we saw in recent years. Marquise Brown get moved, AJ Brown get traded. I think Ayuk, of all the receivers on the market, I think that there's the highest chances that he goes. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would say so. I think if it was probably him or Debo Samuel, I think uh, if the 49ers are figuring that we can pay one of them but not both of them, but you already have Debo signed, so you're going to save money by sticking with Debo and trading Ayuk. So I think he's probably the most likely veteran receiver to get traded, uh, especially opening night of the draft.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that I don't know that we're going to see an AJ Brown type deal where Brown went for the 18th overall pick. I believe that became Treylon Burks, which ended up being a big win for the Eagles overall. But I think you could see Ayuk packaged with some sort of pick or some sort of move up from 31 higher in the draft to a receiver needy team. But it would not surprise me at all to see Ayuk get moved just because uh, I don't think they're going to be able to sign him long term, and they might want to keep him, but if they don't, they need to replace him. And this is a receiver-rich draft, and I think they would like to know that before the draft kind of kicks into full gear.
Joe saying Jahmyr Gibbs to the Lions at 25-1 for the win. That's what we had last year, so that was a nice one. Hopefully, we get something like that, a big number like that as well. That's kind of what I was asking you, Charlie. That I saw the Kool-Aid 50-1 that kind of like lit up for me. I was like, can we get another one like that? But yeah, hopefully we can get a big number or a big bet like that too. Let's see here. So we have Kool-Aid to the Jaguars. Question here specific to the team. Do we have Jacob? I don't know if you can pull up what the Jaguars might do while we answer this question. Charlie, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I've had that in my mock, and I think that's a possibility. So check back Thursday morning, and we might have more on that one. But I could see that happening.
Okay.
Yeah, cornerback is minus 185 for the Jaguars position. They've been tied to all those guys, but yeah, Kool-Aid could definitely be the pick there.
Yeah. Yeah, minus 185 is not great, but like I said, you can shop around and hopefully find something good, something much better than minus 185. Let's see here. So, okay. So Daniel asking Charlie, what are your thoughts on JC Latham going top 10, specifically to the Chargers at 5 and Titans at 7, and any chance he gets picked ahead of Atlanta?
Well, I would say that I don't think he's get picked ahead of Alt. I do think that he has a shot at going top 10, especially if Alt goes 5. I could see the Titans looking at him at 7 if they think he's the second best offensive lineman in the draft. I know there's some who think he could move to left tackle. There's a bunch of teams that think he's a right tackle only, but Tennessee could be one of the ones that thinks he can move to the left side. So, and the other thing, I think he could be a target for the Chargers in the trade down, as Walt and Jacob kind of hit on before. I had one team, a GM, say that Latham has a Ravens-ish kind of profile and feel to him, and their Chargers' new general manager, Joe Ortiz, comes from Baltimore and has been there a while. So, I don't think that's impossible for either of those, Daniel, but I think Alt is probably, 90-some% going to be the first offensive lineman taken.
Yeah, and the odds on Latham going top 10 are plus 350. It's equal with Troy Fautanu, Olu Fashanu, and below Talise Fawaga and Joe Alt. So it seems like he's lower in the pecking order, but I agree with you, Charlie. I think trade down for the Chargers, they could definitely target Latham.
All right, so we had a couple of questions here from Degeneron. Thank you so much, Degeneron, again. Indy, Arnold, OV, Mitchell, don't they like their athletes? And also Powers, Johnson, ceiling and floor. Any thoughts on these two questions?
Yeah, I think the Colts, in terms of scheme fit, Arnold is better for Gus Bradley than Quinion Mitchell. I think the other factor is teams feel that Arnold is more ready to go, where Quinion Mitchell needs more development coming from the MAC. So I think that kind of leads to Arnold being viewed as a safer pick that can contribute sooner. So I think that's the direction with the Colts, but you never know, the smoke factor. Maybe Mitchell's the one they're preferring all along. And then Powers Johnson. I think there were the over-unders on him were like 31 or something like that. And I definitely would take the under on that, whatever the number is. If you want to bet that, I think he's a pretty safe bet to go in the 20s. So I don't think that he slips to the second round at all. And ceiling floor, I mean, I think he could be a Pro Bowl guard, Pro Bowl center at either position, two position Pro Bowler early in his career. So I think he's going to be a really good interior blocker in the NFL for a long time.
Yeah, he's minus 200 to go in the first round. So I think I would 100% take that under too. And, in a crazy world, I was thinking, oh, maybe the Bears, who could use a center and some interior line help, might take him at 9. I had that thought at one point. I don't think that'll happen, but I think he probably goes somewhere in the 20 to 25 range. And I would
There's so many teams in the 20s that could draft him. It's hard to mock him because there's so many in there that could take him, between Miami and Arizona and Tampa Bay and Detroit. And I mean, it's difficult to project. Green Bay, even Dallas, of course, obviously the Eagles can be unpredictable, losing Kelsey, even though they seem to have guys ready to kind of man that. You just never know. This is so many possibilities. I would be absolutely shocked if he didn't go in the first round.
Yeah, the over under is the big is minus 167 a bookmaker. So it's a better number than you get here at minus 200, unless you think that he's going to go number 32, which doesn't seem likely given the Chiefs situation at center. All right, so we have a question here. First 5 exact order. You have Caleb Williams, Jane Daniels, Drake May, JJ, and then Neighbors, since the Cardinals have ammo to trade. This is 32-1 on FanDuel, this exact 5 order. What do you guys think about this? 32-1 is a good number.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's worth a little shot. I mean, I wouldn't wager huge on that, but because the 4th one we feel pretty good about, but the 5th one, as we said, it's a coin flip between Neighbors, Harrison, and Alt, and it's hard to, nothing much is getting out on that one. But that 32-1 is nice odds.
Yeah, Jacob, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think it's a worthwhile shot. So, I think it's worthwhile shot if you think that the Cardinals could trade up.
Yeah, 32-1 is a great number for that. John asking, can draftees bet on themselves since they're not technically in the NFL yet? Maybe, but I mean, technically they can. They just can't get caught, right? That's the problem. I think they'd get in trouble. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the rules. Anyone know the answer to this question?
I've never heard this one before, but I mean, they're technically not NFL employees yet, so I don't know, but I would, knowing the NFL, I would bet they have some way to get these guys in trouble if they did that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't risk it if I'm the players, but it's an interesting question to say the least.
Yeah. Pollyanna is saying, how do you like JJ McCarthy under 5.5 at minus 140? Can you see him slipping out of the top 5? And he's adding, FanDuel has the first 4 picks being quarterbacks at plus 170. Heads up. First time this ever happened, by the way, for quarterbacks 1 through 4. So it's plus 170. But what do you guys think of JJ McCarthy under 5.5 minus 140? Do you think that, like, Do you think this is a Will Levis type of situation or a Mac Jones situation where everyone's like, oh, he's going to go top or number 3 or number 4 and he falls? What do you guys think?
I think him going in the top 5 is very likely. I mean, even if Arizona doesn't trade out, the Chargers definitely have the motivation to do it as well because they have a lot of needs on that roster. So I think it's a very good chance he goes top 5.
I will give you a cautionary tale about projecting trades, just to play devil's advocate, because I 100% also am there. I think JJ McCarthy is going to go top 5 because I think one of those teams is going to trade down. But back in the year, I think, when was Brandon Sheriff drafted? Was that 2015? I think I had a mock draft in a mock draft contest. And I projected the Falcons to trade up for Vic Beasley with Washington moving down to 8 to take Brandon Sheriff. I got the players right, got the picks wrong because I projected the trade. They just selected those guys without trading. That cost me $14,000 in the contest. So, projecting trades. When it works out, you feel great. When it doesn't, there's sometimes that happens.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you call the trade correctly, you're like a legend. But yeah, it's there's definitely a feel bad factor. Degenon, thank you so much for this extra $4. So over under 6.5 trades is the first question, and then over under 5.5 cornerbacks in the first round. Rake a straw, most likely. I would say I have a feeling there's gonna be over 6.5 trades. I feel like Arizona is gonna make 2 trades themselves. So I think we're gonna see over 6.5 trades. And then I would say under 5.5 cornerbacks. I think this can be offensive dominated first round. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would take the under on those corners. I think this might end up being a rare draft where we have 20 offensive players taken in the first 32 selections. I think that's never happened. I think the most has been like 19 on offense. It's usually fairly split down the middle, but this feels like it might get up to like 75% of the picks could be offense. Probably a few more defensive players will go in there, but yeah, it's not a draft where you're going to want to pass on these offensive talents.
Yeah, I would bet the under on that corner one, but I think you hit it. That Rakestraw could be the 6th one that the bet kind of hinges on. And if I had to bet, I would bet that he gets to the second round over going in the first. But yeah, he definitely is a possibility for some of those teams picking late in the first if kind of all other options are cleaned out. So like Jacob said, it's going to be offensive heavy. So I'd lean towards doing that under.
Okay, and DJ with another $2 asking, what are each of your favorite surprise picks? So I thought when I mocked Amarius Mims to the Eagles, I thought that'd be a surprise pick, but then I saw that other people had that as well. I thought Cooper DeJean to Seattle might be a surprise, and then I saw another mock had that too. So I'm like, wait, where do we go with this? I think Troy Fautanu falling to 24. I think people have him earlier, but there's some medical question marks, so there's a chance he could fall. And I know that Dallas has a lot of interest in him. I don't think they expect him to be at 24. So if he's there, we've seen Dallas eschew medical stuff before. Leighton Vander Esch being the primary example. We knew that Charlie reported that one team removed him from the draft boards, and then Dallas didn't care. They took Vander Esch anyway, and he was great when he was on the field, but he wasn't on the field that often. So Jerry Jones has a history of taking these sort of players. So I don't know if any of those 3 count as surprises, but do you guys have anything that could shock some people?
I kind of like Fautanu being a pick to the Saints. I don't know if that's really, if you'd consider that a shock, because it is common to see an offensive lineman being mocked there. But just given the needs that they have, where they have some uncertainty with their tackles, but also could use help at guard, and Fautanu kind of has that flexibility to play either position. So I kind of like that one. And I haven't seen him generally mocked there except for myself. Let's see. Other than that, surprise picks. I kind of I've been debating 32 with the Chiefs between Sua Matia and Jordan Morgan, but I definitely could see them going offensive tackle there at 32. They won the Super Bowl in spite of Donovan Smith, not because of, Donovan Smith. So I think finding a long-term left tackle in the first round that's going to be a cheap starter at a premium high-paid position is pretty intriguing overall. And then when you consider the Chiefs and the way they've spent on some of their veterans, I think it makes even more sense.
Yeah, and I think my biggest surprise pick that I don't know if I'm going to stick with this through Thursday, but I've got Zach Frazier penciled into the Lions right now. I know he's plus money to go in the first round. I just think if those interior linemen are off the board, I could just see Dan Campbell looking at how Frazier played and just saying, man, we could put this guy next to Frank Ragnow long-term, or use him as a successor to Ragnow eventually, because Ragnow's had some injury issues. I think he might really get excited about that possibility. And I think Brad Holmes knows that he can find good receivers on the second day of the draft. So keeping an eye on Frazier there at the end of the first round wouldn't surprise me if he sneaks in.
Okay, Brian asking, how confident are you that the Cardinals prefer Malik Neighbors? Well, this is from Mike Jurecki, who said it on his podcast. He said that the Cardinals prefer Neighbors over Martin Harrison Jr. And as far as single team reporters are concerned, there's been no one more accurate than Jurecki with the Cardinals. He's gotten everything right. I've never seen him get anything wrong with the Cardinals. So if he says something, then I definitely believe it. So and then Pollyanna asking, who do you guys think the Titans would draft if Joe Alt is snatched by the Chargers? So, I mean, this is we kind of sort of answered this question before. I could see the Titans trading down, maybe taking a left tackle, Olufashano. I think Charlie mentioned him. I think J.C. Latham's in play. Someone like that, a left tackle, because they don't have a left tackle, so I think they almost have to pick one. But if they're going to go that route, it makes sense for them to trade down. Like if Arizona goes from 4 to 11, maybe they can make a trade with Arizona, and Arizona could trade up for one of the receivers. So that's where I would go. That's where I would go.
Yeah, I think that they're going to spend a pick on offense either way, because this whole year is about seeing if Will Levis can be the guy. So you got to give him support.
Yeah, I agree. I think if Alt is gone, then I think they look at one of the ones, obviously another offensive lineman, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's more of a lean towards one that can play left tackle like Fashanu or Fatanu, unless they feel Latham can make the switch.
Okay. Jason asking, if you guys had to make one bet, what would you make? Given your inside knowledge, I assume you could make bank. What we like the best so far, was it Latu to be the first defensive player chosen at 2-1? I remember Charlie, you saying you liked that the best. Is there anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
That's the best bet that for me, and you're getting positive numbers there. So if I had to make one bet, it would be Latu, first defensive player drafted.
Yeah, I would also do that. If you're looking for one that seems very safe but has terrible vig, Jaden Daniels at -400. Like, if you have the money to burn where you can make that profitable, it's free money, it seems like. And if I'm wrong, I apologize.
I was about to say that. I was like, yeah, -400 is not as sexy at all. But, it does sound like free money at the moment. I know that Steve Fezzik, who won the Super Contest twice, he only a two-time Super Contest winner. He's like famous on Twitter. He's like, I'm betting -8,000 on this 35.5 point favorite in college football. Like, he does that all the time. And like usually wins, but it's like you're risking the big loss if that happens. Okay, so let's see if we have any other questions here. Holy Grail says Xavier Worthy is 7-1 to the Bills on DraftKings. So I mean, we know that they want to trade up for receivers. 7-1 for the Bills for Xavier Worthy. Is that interesting for you guys?
That is. I think that Brian Thomas is probably the first choice, but you just never know, especially, you get out of the top 10. There are other teams that could snatch him up. I mean, he could go to the Saints, Colts, Jaguars, Bengals. So there's options there that could with a team that could take him, and then I think Xavier Worthy would kind of be the target for the Bills. So I think Worthy could be their plan B, but that plan B might be forced onto them because of actions of other teams.
Yeah, and I think you look at it from this perspective. The Dolphins and Chiefs are listed in front of the Bills. I mean, the Chiefs could take a receiver, but they'd have to trade in front of the Bills. And the Dolphins aren't going to take a receiver in the first round. At least I don't think they are. They don't need one, and they don't need another small, fast receiver too. Like, I mean, their offense could be ridiculous with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Xavier Worthy. But yeah, Bills at 7-1 seems like a good value for him.
Yeah, so Kevin asking if the Bears stay at 9 and they truly like edge Dallas Turner at 9-1, Latu 13-1 to bet both. Well, the problem there is like if they stay at 9, because after they draft Caleb Williams, they're only going to have 3 picks left in the entire draft. So I'd be a little surprised if they stay at 9. I think that they're very likely to trade down, but it makes sense to bet both. But yeah,
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's we've a couple other questions here. I just saw it. Okay, here it goes. Any linebackers in the first round that could sneak in? I don't see any. You guys have any idea of any linebackers who might sneak into the first round? I just don't see it.
I don't think it's a particularly good linebacker class, so I doubt it. I don't see it happening. Charlie, your take?
Yeah, I doubt it. I mean, maybe outside shot for Edger and Cooper, but that's it. And I'd say that's pretty remote.
Okay. Alex asking, would you consider the top 4 exact order of Caleb Williams, Jane Daniels, JJ McCarthy, and Malik Neighbors at 150-1? So it's a great number, but I don't know. I'd kind of be surprised if that happens. Although, I mean, like, if the Patriots like McCarthy more and the Cardinals don't trade, like, I suppose like there is a way this happens. I just feel like the top 4 picks are going to be quarterbacks, and I think May is going to be the 3rd pick. But 150-1, like, would you take a small shot on this?
I probably wouldn't, because that would be too sad if it happened. That's my honest take here. Sorry.
I think it's very unlikely, but not impossible.
Okay. Okay. What do you guys think of Bo Nix first round?
Man, I think the trade of Zach Wilson to the Broncos is a sign of that potentially the odds of that going down for Bo Nix in the first round. So I'm going to dig more on that, but I think it's becoming less likely, especially after that trade. I think actions speak louder than words, and I think that was significant timing and action.
Yeah, I really don't know what to make of Nix as a first rounder, because if he doesn't go to the Broncos,
who's going to take him?
Exactly. You can say, oh, the Giants might trade into the end of the first round to get that 5th-year option, but wouldn't you have thought that would happen with Will Levis last year even? So I think with these guys who kind of get hyped up and have more, I don't love using this term because it's not always accurate, but game manager type skill set. Bo Nix has been hyped and he might be able to be a good quarterback at the pro level, but fact of the matter is I think he's probably more of a 2nd-round prospect in my book.
Yeah, I think he's a 2nd-round prospect. We'll see. It could happen. Degeneron, thank you so much for this $2. Any favorites of positions to teams? Jacob, can you go to teams in the AFC North for the Bengals? Because I'm very confident that they're going to go tackle if J.C. Latham or Amarius Mims are available. So yeah, you have offensive lineman minus 185.
Yep.
So yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just confirming. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, I'm pretty confident the Bengals like both those players. So if one of them is available, I think they're going to take them at 18. Especially Latham. It sounds like the Bengals don't think he's going to get there. So, Yeah, I like that. But Degeneron asking any favorites of positions to the teams. Kind of have to think about this one. But I mean, as far as the Bengal, and he's asking plus 200 to plus 500 range. So this is something that like we'll have to. So like Cleveland right there is kind of interesting because they're in the second round. So you could probably get like a decent number there on something. Kickers was that 200 to 1.
Yeah, 200 to 1 for kicker, punter, long snapper in the
nice.
Well, I think that first pick for there is it a third round or is it a second? I don't even know.
They have a second. Yeah, they have a second. I do have I think I have a defensive end going to them in the second round. But let's see. No, I have a receiver going to them because they met with Malachi Corley. He's 5-1. And I know they traded for Jerry Jeudy, but I think they still need a receiver. They met with a lot of receivers ahead of the draft, so that's interesting. I think at 5-1, I think it's worth a shot. Charlie or Jacob, any other ideas on favorites of positions to teams here?
I kind of would consider offensive line to the Saints. I think that's definitely one. I think offensive line to the Cowboys is another to maybe look at the numbers on those.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Saints offensive line is minus 400 and Dallas is minus 215.
Yeah, that's not great, not at all. So,
what is how about NFC South Atlanta defensive end?
Minus 230 on that one.
It's not great, Bob.
The one I like here is Detroit Lions offensive lineman plus 240 because a lot of attention's been given to the cornerback situation there, and I can see them taking one, but I don't know. I just think that if they don't like Zach Frazier, I think one of the other top interior linemen might fall to them. So I could see Dan Campbell just saying, we're going to continue to address this because they signed Kevin Zeitler, but he's 34. Graham Glasgow is 31. And I know that guards can play well into their mid-30s, but got to have some youth in reserve there.
Yeah. I think that's something I'd look into. Some of these positions. So Colts taking a cornerbacks plus 110. However, receivers plus 225. And we were talking about the Bears trade. I think there's a chance that the Colts are the team that moves up to Chicago to get number 9. Like if Romo Dunze is there, because they really only have Michael Pittman Jr. And Josh Downs is fine last year. Alex Pierce has really not done much. And we know it's been reported that the Colts tried to trade for Jerry Jeudy. It didn't happen. Then they were interested in AJ Brown. That didn't happen either. And so I think the Colts try to trade up for a receiver. They have a quarterback making in his second year. They want to give him as many weapons as possible. So this is the 200 to 500 criteria that Degeneron asked for. I think Colts drafting a receiver plus 225, like it doesn't make sense at 15 because like there's no receiver there, like unless they reach for Brian Thomas. But I think that they could definitely move up. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, I've like fiddled around with putting Brian Thomas at 15 just to see, because I think if there's going to be a surprise early pick, I could see it happening with him because he's just such a traitsy guy that I think Chris Ballard would be the type of guy who might look at that and be like, man, we can get this guy. That would be fun. But I think plus 225 out that is a pretty decent value there. And you can pair it with the cornerback as kind of a hedge bet, but I mean, it's hard to make money with those kinds of lines betting both of them. So pick your flavor.
Yeah, I agree. I think those are both interesting. And I think the tight end one is interesting too, in terms of trading up for a guy like Bowers. Mm-hmm. So I think those three are all intriguing numbers for the Colts.
Okay. We have a couple more questions here. Let's see. You both seem to have Fuaga and Murphy lower in your mocks to consensus. Any reason for that? I actually tried to slot Fuaga in higher, just couldn't do it. And same with Murphy. Like they're both outstanding players. I like them a lot. Just it's tough. I mean, sometimes players are going to fall. And it's difficult. Like there are going to be a lot of trades, a lot of mayhem. So there's no reason for me. I don't know. What do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, I have Fuaga maybe a little bit lower because I know teams look at him as right tackle only. They don't see him as a guy that can make the switch to left tackle. So I think that hurts him. Some teams look at him as a guard. So that leads me to kind of mock him behind players like Fashanu and Fatanu, who could be left tackles. And then Murphy, even though he had a really nice season, it is a bit of a one-year wonder situation, and he's also 6 foot. So there's some teams that do not want their defensive linemen to be that short. So you have some teams that are okay with it, but it just limits the number of landing spots. And that lack of length is just something that is never going to be overcome. So definitely I could see him still going high, being in the top half of the first round, but I think his range is really more of, say, I think he won't. I think early 20s is probably the lowest he'll fall, but I could see him going in the teens.
And John Sanders, a resident Bills fan. Thank you so much, John. He's asking Bills bet the Bills at 8.5 to 1 to taking offensive linemen in the first round. I mean, Charlie, you reported that they want to move up for receiver. What are your thoughts on this prop?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't. I mean, trading up and trading down is always way easier said than done in the draft because you got to find a partner, especially trading down. I've had so many team guys say, "Oh, we wanted to move down, but the phone was silent," Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just easy to say, but and they definitely could be run on receivers with this being an offensive heavy draft, and they feel like the value isn't great there, and they take an offensive lineman and then draw on a deep receiver class in the second round. So I don't think that's a bad bet at all, John.
Mm-hmm. Steve asking, who do you like at 9 if the Bears trade out? I talked about this. It was just now. I think the Colts could move up, and I think Odunze is seems likely. Like Arizona could move from 11 to 9 to take him. Colts could move from 15 to 9 to take him, jumping the Jets. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so Alex asking, Packers seem wanted to address the secondary in the first round. Would you consider 12 to 1 for a safety? Problem is there's no safety we're taking there. And Cooper DeJean, as we get questions here, it seems like he's categorized as a cornerback on these sites. So there's no safety we're taking there. But second round, if you want to on Friday afternoon or morning, they're going to have more props, and you could probably bet the Packers to draft the safety in the second round. I think that's a good bet. Depending on what the vig is, obviously. Dane Brugler just tweeted out a lot of buzz of JJ McCarthy going 3. Thoughts? Well, we know what Jacob's thoughts are. What are Charlie? What do you think about this?
I mean, I've heard that the Patriots like him and they love Drake May, so it doesn't surprise me that you're going to, because there could be different people in the team who are more pushing for McCarthy and others pushing for May. And, maybe some of the McCarthy camp talks to Brugler. So that, doesn't shock me to see that kind of buzz. But you got to always keep in mind the time of year and, even other, Adam Schefter saying the Texans wouldn't take Stroud last year, and Will Levis is going to go 4 to the Colts or to the Texans. Mac Jones is going to go 3 to the 49ers, was into the week of the draft. And so you get this kind of stuff. So you all, and I don't hold it against Dane. He's got to report what he's hearing. He's not saying it's going to happen for sure, but he's saying there's buzz about it. So you kind of have to take everything with with some grain of doubt these days.
Yeah, and I think you could speak to that too, because I was just going through Brugler's Twitter feed. I actually didn't see the tweet about JJ, so maybe I don't know. I just didn't see it, but I think we've seen that with Byron Murphy too, where all of a sudden he's in the conversation to be the first defensive player taken. And maybe it's possible, but it's just hard to know. Like all of a sudden the odds on Byron Murphy, like we were looking at that prop earlier where it was like draft matchups and Byron Murphy's favored to go ahead of Latu. And it just seems like Latu has the advantage, but has the plus money odds. So it's kind of parsing through that sort of stuff at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like every time there's buzz about a quarterback going high, they don't end up going high at all. In fact, they fall quite a bit. It's weird how that happens. It doesn't matter who the reporter is. It just always seems to be that way. Kevin saying, Walt, Eagles offensive line is 2-1 for them to take that. So please let me know where that is so I can maybe bet it. Let's see. There's like one more question here. Okay. So a couple more questions, just a couple more for Degeneron. Thank you so much, Degeneron. Percentage you would give the Raiders picking tackle, cornerback, quarterback, or trade. I think that's pretty high. And then Rattler, what round? I think second round, maybe third, but second round. What do you guys think?
I'll say with Rattler, I think he could go second round, but I think he's going to be that classic guy that we're waiting on day 2. We're like, when's he going to go? When's he going to get selected? So I think he'll go on the third round. Especially if Bo Nix or Michael Penix happens to slip to the second round, I think that could push him further down the board.
Yeah, I if I had to bet a round where Rattler's going to come off the board, I'd go with third. And I think it's a real possibility that the Raiders take offensive tackle or cornerback at 13 and then look to move up for Penix from their second round pick. We reported that. I think that's very possible. And I also could see themselves as we get closer and closer to being like, well, what if we don't get them? What if we should just take them at 13? So they're going to be challenging too, because Tom Telesco does not talk with a lot of people at the team. That was his MO with the Chargers. So really the only people that are truly going to know are going to be him and Antonio Pierce and Mark Davis.
Yeah, and JP asking any teams you think could draft Rattler, because Texans are 75-1, but I just don't know why they would draft him, So unless he fell to like 6th round, and like they're like, why not take a shot? But
I kind of like the Giants on that one, but check back on Thursday, and hopefully I'll have some info on that in my mock on where he could go.
Okay.
I have loudly begged the Giants to take Rattler instead of taking a quarterback early. They're 13-1 to do so over at FanDuel, so that's a pretty good value pick if that's the direction they go in.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit. Thanks so much, guys, for commenting and watching. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much for all the super chats. We had Genenon and 20 and a bunch of $2 ones. John Sanders, $2. Slew with the 33. Thanks so much, guys, for all of this. Just really appreciate it. Like I said, YouTube ads pay nothing, so this really helps the show going. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. All that would be appreciated. I'll be back tomorrow we'll have another guest on for the draft. We'll be talking more draft props and mock drafts and whatnot. So guys, let's go left to right here. Jacob, Charlie, anything to plug before we sign out?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Camenker. I will be posting most of the work that I've done the last couple weeks over there in the coming days. I've got plenty of stuff coming out. I have sleepers, bust candidates, the AI mock that we're all eagerly awaiting. I did my yearly 3-option mock draft this was on Monday, but it looks at the 3 potential options that each team could have in the first round. And Thursday, I will be running my annual mock draft on the day of the draft that I will update right until probably about an hour and a half before the draft with all the latest rumors. Probably a lot of reporting from Charlie will be referenced in there. So it's going to be a great week. I am looking forward greatly to trying to figure this out. And hopefully we'll be celebrating as much when the 4th pick rolls around as we did last year when we all had Anthony Richardson there.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Draft Campbell. But of course, we have our 7-round mocks on Walter Football getting updated tomorrow and then Thursday. And generally my final one's out Thursday morning. if I hear something from a team during the day to warrant changing a pick, I'll do it. But typically during draft day, teams guys are all at home chilling out during the day. They get to the facility, 5-6 o'clock range, and so there isn't as much going on then as you might think. At that point, the hay is in the barn, so to speak. But we have tons of draft stuff on Walter Football to get you guys ready. Scouting reports, position rankings, big board, position reviews. Check out all the visits that teams are having with the top 30. Walt's done an awesome job of tracking all of that. And we share that info with teams. We have a little behind the scenes thing that they really appreciate. So they value that info too. But we appreciate all you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the super chats. And it's been a lot of fun. Another great draft season, and this draft's going to be awesome. We'll have a great time.
Yeah, we're going to have live draft grades on the site all 3 days. So, assuming the site stays up, which I'm pretty confident now that we moved to WordPress. But yeah, we're going to have live draft grades all 3 days, live blog the first day, trades for every or grades for every trade during the first 2 days of the draft as well. So we're gonna have that as well. And thank you so much again for DGen on the $20 here. Thanks, guys. Make a DGen happy. So yeah, well, hopefully you're very happy with the results of your prop bets here. And good luck to everyone making your bets. Like I said, tomorrow we're gonna have Ben Wassley on, discussing more draft stuff. On Thursday, after the first round is over, I will be on to discuss grades. And then instead of Saturday, which is usually it's our usual day for the weekend episode, we're going to have a show on Sunday because I'm going to be so wiped on Saturday with day 3 is pretty rough. But yeah, on Sunday, you'll be able to talk about like team grades and whatnot. So that's what's coming up here. So again, thanks so much, guys. Thanks so much for the super chatters. Just really appreciate it. Thanks, Jacob and Charlie, for making this a great episode. And good luck to everyone. And I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Sounds good. Talk to you soon.